Hi, everybody. Scott Riley, the Market Update Desk, NMLS 157524. It's April 7th. We are basking in a little bit of a glow from the U of M win in the men's basketball collegiate championship last night. Pretty cool to see them hold on and hold off a very scrappy, determined UConn team. They gave them everything they could. So kind of cool. It's first title since '89, I believe, for U of M college basketball. That would have been the Glenn Rice era, by the way. So today we got information on used cars. Manheim used vehicle value index specifically. Now that tracks prices of used vehicles sold in the U.S. wholesale auctions. That increased 6.2% year over year. The index also hit its highest level since the summer of 23. Now, days supply for used car market, it's a very important segment for dealers and consumers, which is followed very closely. That fell now below 40 days in March. That means how long it takes for the car to get sold. That's going down and down, means used cars are getting much more in demand. The average listed price of a used vehicle, wow, $25,287 as of February. That compares with new vehicles with an average price of a little more than $49,100. Prices are definitely getting up there for vehicles. In the market today, we saw Apple shares sink 4% after reports the company's foldable new iPhones may face delays in manufacturing. The March ISM Services Index fell from a index of 56 to 54, a little bit beneath the estimates of 55. So not a huge movement there, but something to pay attention to. The rise in oil prices, as we've been saying, as well as other prices that have been impacted by the Strait of Hormuz closure, caused prices paid to rise from an index of 63 to 71. That's a big jump. Now that matches the highest since looks like August of 22. Now another index within this report is the employment component. Now that was especially weak. It declined by almost 7 points to index rating of 45, the weakest since it looks like December of 23. Now the really interesting part is when we look at different employment numbers, this is in stark contrast to what the BLS said in March. Now they indicated there was 178,000 jobs created. Now the ADP private payrolls rose by 196 versus the 62,000 compared to ADP, and only 19,000 in the Real Velo report. Now, which reading is actually right? We're seeing big variations in numbers here, and we all know the BLS report leaves a lot to be believed. So it's going to be interesting where we go from here. Now, following employment numbers, we do see that the ADP released their weekly employment report. Now, that shows that private employers added an average of 26,000 jobs per week in the preceding 4 weeks ending March 21. This is higher than the readings we've been seeing, very much so, and is forecasting around a plus $100,000 in the next ADP employment report. There was also a survey done of employees in the United States showing that only 28% of workers feel their job is safe. That's a very low number, and it's very likely impacted by the concern on the rise of AI and how that it's impacting current and futurescape employment markets. Durable goods orders for February also rolled in the wires. And while the headline was weak, the internals did get a little bit stronger. The headline fell 1.4%, which was much weaker than the estimates, but due mostly to a decline in aircraft orders, because that's a big variable that comes out in each of these reports. It affects it a dramatic amount. That's why we look very closely at the core durable goods orders. Now that strips out defense spending and aircraft. That rose 0.6 and was higher than expected of the 0.4. Now, tempering the gain was a 0.4 negative revision to the previous core reading. So core shipments, which are plugged into GDP, gained at 0.9%, stronger than anticipated. That could lead to a slight uptick in GDP estimates when we get the next look at GDP. When we look at treasuries and mortgage-backed securities today, we're seeing the 10-year yield rise 0.3% to 4.362. Now we're watching it very closely because the top line resistance that could help buffer us a little bit, that's at 4.37. So we're inching towards that top line resistance. Mortgage-backed securities are down 11 today. Now we're very close to the current floor, but if we break through that, the next floor is 30 basis points below where we are right now. So that is something to be very watchful on. Now tonight's could be an important night with the conflict in the Middle East. President Trump set a deadline. There's a lot of activities going on in and around the Strait of Hormuz right now as it relates to Cargo Island, and what extent we, if any, will take with potential new attacks on infrastructure with Iran, and what the reply to that will be. So we're trying to keep a close eye on the market. It's probably going to stay fairly stable pending what happens overnight. So we'll watch close on that, keep you updated. The Market Update Desk, your original singular market news source for West Michigan, 616-293-2189. Give us a call, review mortgage options, and see how we can help you out. Have a great afternoon.